the solid waste bid that we give out.
Okay, does anyone else have anything they'd like to address that is not on the agenda?
That went to the powwows.
Okay. I'd like to move to item number 8, a resolution authoring discharge of accountability on repayments to the county.
Good morning. Mary Sawicki, Director of Calaveras Works and Human Services. The county provides general assistance services to individuals who are temporarily unemployed or temporarily or permanently disabled who are not eligible for other federal or state funding. Part of the requirements of the general assistance program is for individuals who receive aid to repay those particular amounts back to the county when they are able to do so, either through a Social Security reimbursement, or we also place liens on individual properties for the repayment. Since the program began in 1986, we have not asked the board to absolve us of further collections on individual accounts where the person is either now presently deceased, or the person has moved out of state, or their whereabouts are unknown. We have utilized a number of our data banks, including various locator services, and this list consists of individuals, like I said, who are either deceased or there's no way that we are able to locate those individuals to receive the funds back, and therefore we're asking you to absolve us of having to pursue these accounts further.
This was hard to swallow when you look at it as a cumulative item. Mary, could you just sort of explain the process? I mean, I think we can all understand a few hundred here, a few hundred there. I mean, we're talking over 20 years and at what point, but some of these are fairly high-ticket items.
Yeah.
And who is absorbing this? I mean, this is an impact to the general fund.
Right.
Because it shows monies owed.
Right.
And so, okay.
To be honest with you, in the past, I would say, I'm not sure if prior to my coming that we had, as a department, actively pursued all avenues in looking to see if we could obtain the funding back that the county gave. We also, in the process, haven't always pursued every avenue, shall I say. We have been doing it. Now we have, among other things, signed up for and are a part of the tax intercept program for the state of California. And we also have hit every data bank through our fraud unit, and our fraud investigator is here to be able to get any funds at all possible. We have this year, since we've been actively asking for repayments, have about 9 individuals. We've collected over $5,000. Last year, one lien alone brought back to the county $17,000. So we have been actively trying to receive the funding back. But this list consists, like I said, way before my time, of individuals who owe money to the county where we can either not locate them, or they're out of state and therefore we're unable to collect.
So my question is we're going to be taking it off the books.
Right.
Even though, let's say, if there's liens, or the intercept program brings in revenues in a year, 2 years, 5 years, but in terms of what, this is just sitting on the books.
This is sitting, right. This has been sitting on the, many of these are on the books since over, a couple of decades ago. And the person is either today, we've found that they're deceased, they're out of state, therefore we cannot use the tax intercept program, or their whereabouts are unknown. And every data bank that we have access to through our fraud unit has not been able to find any way, shape, or form that we know where the person is.
Okay, I mean, I
So
understand.
this is basically kind of cleaning up the accounts historically from
Lynn
1986.
Norfolk came to us with something similar. Steve?
Just to put this in perspective, I'm curious, how bad do things have to get before you actually qualify for general assistance?
Well, people who apply for general assistance are individuals who are not eligible for any other type of aid. And presently, they're unemployed, but the majority of the people actually we have on general assistance are individuals who are temporarily or permanently disabled, and they've applied for Social Security income, but they have not been approved just yet, because that is a longer process. And so when somebody comes in, for example, and let's say they're disabled, we take a repay agreement from them so that if they get any retroactive benefits, we will get our money basically first before they get the remainder of that particular reimbursement check. It'd be the same thing if people own property, they sign, we automatically get a lien on their property for repay as well, in the event that they don't repay us through other means.
Well, while I appreciate your, since there was a fairly unmanaged operation on this for a while, trying to get a handle on it is a good thing. But given our experience, I'm wondering if we received $5,000 in an effort that lasted for that year, how much staff time and how much effort went into getting that, and was that, how did that equate for you?
Well, our fraud investigator, Shelley High, who is here, actually spent a tremendous amount of time trying to locate individuals. I could tell you, as well as we also have folks in our fiscal staff who, on an ongoing basis, contact individuals to see their current financial circumstances and whether they're able to repay.
So if I'm right about the math on this, we may have spent more than $5,000 to get $5,000 from people who are predominantly disabled and broke.
Yeah, what you have to remember is that we are in active collections right now. I would say we have not always been in that process as people in the past. Like I said, we're taking the historical backlog of these accounts and bringing them forward. And this list consists of individuals that and cases that we will not be able to collect on, to our knowledge. Every effort has been exhausted. And I would say it's probably, I can tell you it's probably beyond 5,000 at this point, because this has been a large project.
Essentially, we're going to stop trying to draw blood from a rock.
On these individual cases, yes, we believe that.
Okay.
There's nothing further we can do.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the audience? I'll entertain a motion, please.
I'll move the item, Madam Chair.
I'll second the item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on 5-0. Thank you. I'd like to move to item 9. It's a public hearing.
Good morning.
Good morning. Could you just please identify yourself for the record?
Gina Cathan, County Planning.
Thank you. Okay, we have a board packet before us on ordinance changing zoning from unclassified to RA20. Is there some things or changes you would like to note
Yeah,
on
just
this?
real quick. Your packet actually contains the incorrect zoning map, in case you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
The zoning in the map refers to the RA5 zone district rather than the RA20.
Which is the other item.
The correct zoning map has been placed with the ordinance in Carol's hands for signature. I just wanted to note that that was incorrect.
Are there any questions? Is there any questions or comments at the moment from the supervisor? Okay, thank you, temporarily. I'd like to open the public hearing on this. Is the applicant here, or the applicant's representative, and would they like to state something?
Good morning. My name is Robin Peters. I'm with Cal State Engineering. I represent the applicant, Ron Pargett.
Sorry.
We've reviewed the staff report presented to the board. You'll note in the staff report that there was an issue of discussion regarding the classification of road versus driveway on one
Correct.
segment. We've, at this point, exhausted that discussion with Public Works, and we're dropping that bone. So we take no exception with the staff report as it's presented to the board today.
Wait a minute, you're dropping the bone, but I'm not sure what you mean when you say you're dropping the bone.
There is no residual issue regarding the
We
road.
accept the Public Works
Okay.
recommendation.
We disagree with Public Works, but we have agreed to disagree and leave it alone for now. We don't believe we're going to win the fight. So any discussion of whether the segment in question is a road or a driveway is no longer an issue with the applicant.
Steve?
I thank you for that, but I had wanted to weigh in on this question because it is a frequent issue in my district. The people of my district have repeatedly been to meetings in which we have a lot of tiny little roads that go off of our main arteries. There's a number of family compounds in our district where people have ranches that they want their kids and their grandkids to be on, and there are driveways that go up into that. The question is whether we have a suburban template that is a one-size-fits-all to do both in the flatlands and down in lower areas where we're putting in large subdivisions, and apply the same road circumstances to family compounds in places where people do not want to have wide roads, cut down the trees, turn it into a more suburban look. These are people who have a deep commitment to their version of rural life, and that does sometimes mean driving along a gravel road through your property and your kids and grandparents. It's something that our codes don't really reflect the true differences in terrain and values for these areas, and so I took your application to be in that context and just wanted to say it before we go and do this other thing. But I do recognize that it's hard to navigate those things through a system that sees it all as one place, one terrain, and one sensibility. So I think it's important that we try to study this so that we don't put people in this situation inappropriately.
I don't think it's just to your district. I think it's
I'm just
throughout the
speaking for that.
district.
Again, one
It
size
is.
does not fit all.
And we've run into
Point
this
brought up.
in every district. The trigger threshold beyond which an access route becomes a road is service of two parcels. And that's a very low threshold, and it isn't just in Calaveras County that we run into this problem. It's Amador and Tuolumne and all the other foothill counties seem to have this same issue. We, as you suggested, we as designers struggle with this trigger, this very low threshold on many projects, and it's stopped some in their tracks. Now, this particular issue is slightly different in that the parcel that we were crossing, the Hubbardy parcel that we're crossing with this, actually has access already, so that our argument was that the trigger hadn't been met. We lost that argument at this point, and we're willing to give up, so it's probably not worth debating any further here today, but we'll get them on the next one.
Planting seeds for future harvests.
Yes. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from Mr. Peters? I just want to say one thing. It was the board that made this decision, not the department. So if the board wants to change it and we don't like the way it's written, then it needs to come back to the board, because I support historic roads, cute roads. I don't think we need to have highways into everything.
At some point in the future, I'd be happy to volunteer to write an alternative
Oh, you
section
could just
for
go
your
ahead and write
consideration.
one and submit it. Okay, thank you. Is there
Thank you.
any other questions or comments? Are there any questions, comments on this project?
Marty Crane, I'd just like to make sure that everyone just noticed what happened. This gentleman came here, and they were compromising. And then, before he left, he proposed a solution. I love that.
Thank you, Marty. Okay, are there any other public comments? Close it and bring it back to the board. Supervisor Walensky.
I would like to make a motion to accept the Planning Commission's recommendations that we adopt an ordinance changing zoning on APN 36-003-113 from unclassified to RA20, and also recommend approval of tentative parcel map 2005-194, again based on the findings and conditions included in the staff report.
May I have a second?
I'll second that motion. Just like to point out for the record that this comes to us with a recommendation for approval from the Planning Commission.
I have a comment, Maria.
Yeah.
I'd like to give a comment, and that is, I support Public Works road requirement. I don't really buy into this, it's a family homestead argument, because at the time of the parcel split is when you apply the conditions and you apply the right-of-way requirements. And quite frankly, what will happen over time is those parcels will get sold off to people that are not family members, and you have no way of coming back and getting it done appropriately. So, at the time of the legislative act and the parcel split is the only time we have to see that the road infrastructure is done to an appropriate standard. So just saying, oh, well, this is for my 3 children or my 4 children and myself and my grandparents doesn't stop it in the future from obviously being sold to other parties. Number one. Number two is I am in support of this. When it comes to the general plan, I'm very much in favor of the 40-acre minimum parcel size if we're not on sewer and water. This long precedes it, and the application following this long precede the board's direction on the 40 acres. And I view this as basically just sort of a cleanup of that huge backlog that we were able to generate prior to the real estate downturn. And I'm happy to see that we are working through that backlog, and we will hopefully, as a consequence of the new general plan, be able to apply the new standards. So that concludes my comments.
As we can all see, Supervisor Walensky had to leave, but he did make the motion. I am going to call for the question, and I am going to vote for him. I think this is
You don't have to vote for him. He has to vote. You have to be present to vote. Yeah.
I don't want to show, because he did make the motion.
I could step into the hall and see if he's ready to come.
Sure, let's take the vote.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 4.5. Give me a yes, Steve. Just give me a yes.
Please say yes. We're still
Okay,
voting.
passes on a 5-0.
My apologies,
That's okay.
there's an emergency.
Thank you. Okay. Tina, would you like to go with number 10, please?
Yes. Unlike the previous application, this application is not consistent with the current policy, but also predates the interim guidelines in respect to the 40 acres and wells and septics. The Planning Commission heard this application as well during a public hearing process and recommends you approve the zoning amendment from unclassified to residential ag with a 5-acre density and the tentative parcel map to divide the 11.63 acres into 2 parcels, 6.63 acres and 5 acres in size.
Okay, are there any questions or comments on the application? Mr. Walensky, did you have any questions or comments at this point?
No, I'm familiar with this.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is the applicant or his or her representative here?
Hi, I'm Katie Blankenship, and this...
Mike Blankenship.
Yeah, we're the owners of the property.
We call you Katie?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Katie because it says
Says
Cecilia.
Cecilia, but no,
Okay,
it's
no,
Katie.
that's okay.
Cecilia's
you.
way too formal for me.
Thank you, Ms. Blankenship. Okay,
yeah,
is there
everything.
anything that you wanted to add for
No.
the record on this?
No, we've been over this for so long now and gone through all the processes. I think we have everything ironed out with the planning department, and we've done so many changes on the map that it's kind of up to you guys now.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of the Blankenships? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Does any member of Russ?
Yeah, before they step away, one thing just caught my attention on this thing is that there is an existing well that is noted on parcel 2. I don't see a well shown on parcel 1. Will parcel 1 be served by the well on parcel 2?
It could be. The well now that we're using is on parcel 2. We have our home built on parcel 1, right?
Correct.
And so if we develop parcel 2 or sell it, whatever,
Yeah.
then what we would, this well was set up originally to serve 2 homes, and it was a shared well. But what we would prefer to do is just drill our own well. You
There
know,
would be another well put on parcel 1.
there would be another well put on parcel 1, because we don't like sharing wells.
This is the conditions, okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Are there any public comments on this project? I'll close the public
Oh,
hearing.
just real quick, that will be placed on the map as a condition of approval, that they'll have to provide proof of adequate water supply for that second
Okay.
parcel.
Yeah, apparently I skipped over that in the staff reports, right?
Mr. Walensky, did you have any comments you wanted to make on this?
Yes, I'm personally want to express my thanks to the planning department for dusting off some of these old files and actually acting on them. It's been, I know, a long wait for some of our folks. I see this as a sign, both of these coming to us today, as a sign that people are taking a look at that old stuff, putting it in its time and place, trying to act upon it in a way to close out files that maybe would best have been handled long ago. But this group in planning today is going way out of its way to try to resolve these, and I'm most appreciative of it, and I know that my constituency is too.
Thank you.
So with that, I will, if there are no other questions, move to adopt the Planning Commission recommendations, changing zoning on APN 36-029-021 from unclassified to RA residential agriculture, and also to accept the Planning Commission recommendations of approval of tentative partial map 2006-191 based upon findings and conditions included in the staff report.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you, Jim. We're going to be taking a 5-minute recess.
Thank you. These folks are from Valley Springs.
I'd like to move to item 11, discussion possible action on the Valley Springs Community Plan. What I will be doing is asking the Council of Government staff to make a presentation. I will then bring it back to the board for any questions or comments. I will open it up to the public. I will not be doing a George Fry, you get 3 bites at the apple. Thanks, Mr. Valentine, for bringing that to my attention. Everyone will have 5 minutes to make a comment. Any questions that are asked will be noted, and they will all be addressed at the end of public comment. After the questions are answered, I will, doesn't mean it's to your satisfaction, it'll just be answered. I will be bringing it back to the board for any questions or comments, and I will be asking Supervisor Tuffanelli to possibly make a recommendation to the board. Okay, is there any questions on how the process is going to work? Okay, Mr. McSorley, please.
Good morning, Chair Callaway, Tim McSorley, Council of Governments, and with me today is Tyler Somerset, Project Manager for the Valley Springs Community Plan Project. Also, as part of the Council of Government staff, Melissa Raggio is hoping to keep track of some of the questions so that we can respond a little bit later in the presentation. The purpose of the meeting today is that we would respectfully request that the Board of Supervisors accept the community map as presented. This process leading up today has been fairly extensive. It's been over a year since we've been involved in this process. We've had charrettes, workshops, stakeholder meetings, property owner meetings, a lot of hard work by dedicated citizens. And so we do believe that this public outreach process has been, as I said, extensive, flexible, responsive, and transparent. We have over 1,800 citizens on our email and mailing list. We have put flyers in the local news media. We've had sandwich boards out on sidewalks. We've gone door to door within the community of Valley Springs. As an example of some of our flexibility, I believe that when we were told we weren't getting the word out adequately, that we changed our approach. We added different strategies for that public outreach. We've been responsive. The issue with the Rancho homeowners, when we had our August 27th meeting, after that, we had a lot of input, and as a result of that, we had a second workshop in which the Rancho property owners expressed their preferences, and I believe that we responded. This process is not simple, nor is it easy. And quite frankly, it will not necessarily please everyone all the time. And we fully expect that the map as presented, if the board chooses to accept it, will undergo further changes. So we have no inherent, if you want to call it, ownership over this map. This map belongs to the community. It belongs to the Board of Supervisors. And so at this point in time, I'd like to turn this over to Tyler, and he will walk through the survey and the results of the survey, the most recent survey, and finally the map that we believe represents the community input.
Thank you. Mr. Somerset.
Members of the board, just to bring you up to speed here quickly, after our last set of meetings, February 23rd, 25th, and 27th, had developed two land use diagrams, and that's what we'll work through today. And as we were preparing to take our next step, this community questionnaire was developed to help us reach one map that we could submit as part of the general plan update. So the first land use diagram was developed as a result of many of our early community workshops and meetings. And this map reflects what we heard kind of over and over again, which was that people appreciated certain things about the community. They liked the rural character, they appreciated the scenic vistas, the small town feel, open space, the area's history, recreation opportunities, and wildlife habitat and oak trees, amongst other things. We feel like this map tries to fairly capture those comments. So this is land use diagram alternative 1. Land use diagram alternative 2 is built on the same map, but we got additional input. from the business community, business owners, large parcel owners, and this map was developed later in the process as we were getting more feedback from the community as well. So this map represents greater opportunity for growth and some differences in 7 key areas. So those 7 key areas are listed here, and the community questionnaire was developed to ask questions regarding these 7 specific areas. These are the key differences, the only differences between the 2 maps. For survey or questionnaire respondents, they had 4 opportunities to respond. They could select that this option is consistent with community values, and a community values and priorities worksheet was provided as part of this process. 2, this option would be consistent with community values if certain changes were made. If someone selected this option, they would then have an opportunity to specifically detail what changes they think should be made to make it consistent. 3, this option is not consistent with community values, but I could live with it. And lastly, this option is not consistent with community values, and it should be dropped from consideration. And again, if this option was selected, the participant would have an opportunity to leave feedback. Questionnaire outreach. Everyone within the planning boundary, alternative B, got this direct mailer, and that is a postcard that's included in your in the material that was shared with you. Participants who indicated they want to be kept abreast of the process, they also received the direct mailer. We had roughly 350 community members who provided us with their email addresses, wanting to be kept up to speed via this medium. They received an email. And we ran an insert in the Valley Springs News reminding people of the community questionnaire and asking them to take it. And lastly, included as part of the questionnaire, if someone did not have a computer, on the mailer and all the information that we shared was the council government's contact information for receiving a hard copy material of the same questionnaire.
How many calls did you get on that?
I would say roughly 15.
Okay, thank you.
And to be fair, there were a number of folks who did indicate that the material was dense, and so for those folks, as they called up and weren't happy with the format, with the online version, we provided a hard copy to those folks.
Everybody that asked for a hard copy was given a hard copy? There was no denials?
No. No denial. So the first study area was Area 1. This is along State Route 26, and it's part of the commercial corridor. And you can see the actual area in question here is circled. In the first alternative, the existing commercial businesses were not reflected.
Why is that?
It was basically a concept called clustering your commercial, where you encourage the viability of commercial activity by clustering commercial together, and so folks can get multiple activities done in one area as opposed to having to drive from one destination to the next.
But there's existing commercial in those areas.
Correct. Correct. And it's our understanding that those commercial activities would then be allowed to continue taking place, but when the land use changed, that would, if the business were to cease to exist, then this policy would come into effect.
And you got that information from?
That was through communications with project partners and the planning department. State Route 26, Commercial Corridor Option 2, reflects the existing commercial activity. Both options, 43% of the respondents felt the option was consistent with community values. And slightly more felt in option 1 that it should be dropped from further consideration than option 2. So then we moved to the actual comments that folks left, and it became very clear that folks wanted to protect existing commercial within the corridor. And so option 2 was selected to represent Area 1, preserving the existing commercial activity. Area 2 is along Paloma and Watertown Road. It's the industrial area. Paloma Road industrial area, option 2 shows two options, one with ag, the other with industrial. 65% of the respondents favored the ag designation for this piece. Area 3, Castle Rock, option 1.
Excuse me, can we go back to the previous slide? I had some questions about that particular area that's circled on the map and how it was presented in the survey. That little 3-acre parcel there, in actuality, it doesn't show the land that's between, going further up between Watertown Road and Paloma Road. It's actually all industrial area existing. And I was wondering why that wasn't shown. It would have provided probably a clearer picture to people on what they were voting upon, because when you look at this right here, the way it's presented, naturally it would look like it should belong in ag. But the indication of people not knowing what's going on above that, and it's actually part of a 700-acre parcel, is kind of, to me, looks like it's turning the tables one way. It's slanted one way. Because it does look like it belongs in ag, if we're just going to have this little industrial area. So I was wondering how we got to the point of presenting it like that and not showing that the other parcel it's connected to is, in fact, industrial.
Yeah, the area adjacent to this piece of industrial zone land in this picture it shows up as white, is in fact, does have some industrial zoning. Because that area was eliminated as part of the community plan boundary, we didn't, and the county is going through a general plan update, we didn't want to make any assumptions about what would happen to that piece of land. And so we reflected both uses, both ag and industrial, and essentially that's what's the reason that it was displayed in that manner. And currently, I think this parcel is unclassified, so we didn't have a land use to work with. Area 3, the area known as the Castle Rock area. Again, this is an option 1, presented as a combination of residential, rural, and ag land. In option 2, the parcel is shown as rural residential. Based on feedback from community questionnaire, 71% of the respondents supported the ag designation for this area.
Can we go back one more to the previous slide? See that RR area there? Can you tell me if that's that particular, I'm assuming that's one APN right there? And is it designated land use currently as RR?
You know, I'm not totally sure. I'd have to look at the existing community plan, but I believe it is.
Okay.
Study area number 4.
Excuse me, please go back to option 2 for a moment. Thank you.
Study area 4, agricultural preserve area. Option 1, show this area as having an ag land use. Option 2 reflected the existing commercial zoning for this area in addition to the proposed rural residential use. And according to survey feedback, 74% of the respondents favored the ag land use designation. In area 5, the study area, ranch lands east of the town center, is shown as ag lands. Option 2 presented this area as community commercial local. And this is essentially a mixed-use designation, which would allow for, as the name implies, a mix of uses, light industrial, commercial, residential. Feedback, 76% of the respondents favored the ag designation of this parcel.
Everyone else is like the ag.
Area 6, study area along Lime Creek Road. Option 1 again indicates the existing commercial and then ag beyond. Option 2 preserves all of the highway commercial between Highway 12 and 26 and Lime Creek Road. 66% of the respondents favored the ag land use designation along with the existing commercial. And the 7th study area was south of Lime Creek Road. Option 1 showed this as being ag land. Option 2 showed the use of residential agriculture. 78% of the respondents favored the ag alternative.
Can you go back to that there, please?
Okay, thank you. Tyler, could you speak up, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
No, it's Mr. Fry and his date right there that you know.
Okay, well, please, Mr. Tyler has the floor. Everybody else will have an opportunity. Thank you.
I'm picturing this area in my mind, and there's a road missing, I think, there on here. But that currently, some of that is developed in 5-acre parcels, is it? And it's land use designated RA5, I believe, some of that. So you're changing that to ag, propose to change that?
Based on the picture here on the left where it says RA within the circle, just below that you can see the smaller parcels. That's the existing residential agriculture. That would remain the same. It's the larger parcels that sit on top of that,
I'll
which
have to
were
check.
proposed.
Yeah, but I think it's still going to change the land use that because I think there's a project right now has been submitted for a while that's in planning that proposes a change to that, and I don't think it's ag, I think it's RA5, but go ahead. I'll have to research that on the thing.
That's over closer to the
Towards the nursery, the side of the nursery.
large parcel.
So based on the feedback from the community questionnaire, in study area 1, you can see the existing commercial is preserved and reflected in the map. The other areas are shown as ag lands, and then along 12 and 26, the existing commercial again is recognized and protected, but the land use for the remaining piece there is also returned to ag. So based on community feedback from the questionnaire that we received, we're recommending that the Board of Supervisors accept the community map as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Somerset. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments of Tyler or Tim? Do you have anyone to?
I'll save some more until the end.
No,
Let's
that's
hear
fine.
from the public. Have you been to the fair?
All right.
Too long.
Too long?
I'd like to,
Yeah, I could do
I'd
that.
like to open it up to public comment, and as Mr. Valentine said, it's 5 minutes per person and no up and down. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm Jeff Davidson. I have several concerns about the Valley Springs Community Plan. I certainly am a proponent of having a better vision for this area. I think that there are some significant questions, and I'll try to separate them from my own interest to just the general community. I think I'm concerned about, and I think many of the Valley Springs residents are concerned about their having to pay for cost of future infrastructure. And I don't know that that's adequately been addressed. I think there's still some significant concerns. I also think that Valley Springs PUD needs to weigh on this before your acceptance to make sure that they have plans to actually accommodate this. And if they do not, then CCWD needs to be contacted to ask if they want to be the purveyors. I think that Valley Springs PD does need to grow a little bit for the economy of scale to get better, but I just don't think those are a couple of very important issues before you decide to adopt this. On another general issue, I think that there's some areas down here, we saw the percentages of the general people who attended those meetings and which ones of them voted on it, but what we didn't have is a map that showed what individual property owners wanted to do with their property, which I think should have been the first map generated. I think it would have I think it would have been a very similar looking map, actually, but it would have alleviated much of the controversy that we're going to have from here on out if we adopt this. For instance, this notion that we're going to rezone commercial property if it changes land use or if it changes ownership, I think is something out of another, it's not democracy, it's not constitutional. What I've heard is if Lalo's Auto, who is one of these people that have been, I believe is one of these people that's been changed to RA designation, if that property sells, then it's going to go to RA from commercial. How will he ever do any future financing if that's the case? And whether or not that particular lot is the one, I know it was talked about in the past.
Can you point that out on the map for us?
Well, I believe it's this property right here.
That's over where the golf range?
Well, I think this is the entrance into, well, they may have switched it off here.
Or that's over where the, yeah, that's by the
Mini storage.
storage, and that's great.
And maybe they've retained it. Maybe they could answer that.
Yeah.
You guys take that back out?
It has been retained, and one of the issues with this planning process has been, future land use designation versus existing zoning. And this particular area is one of those spots where there is an inconsistency there between, what these commercial property owners' future land use designation is and what their zoning is. But as captured here, their existing land use has been made consistent with their future land use for the highway commercial portions of the property.
But I think that there are other examples that will cause conflict in the future of that. If I could get now to my specific issues, can I approach that again? The property owners that I represent that are doing the Mission Ranch development, which the Mission Ranch development is here, and I believe our commercial imprint is a little larger than what's being shown here. But also, we own this property that currently, for the last 40 years, has been used as the baseball diamonds in Valley Springs. And that's this little bit of yellow, and then now they've changed there's two parcels there. There's about a 5-acre and a 12-acre. It's our intent, if we get our entitlements for Mission Ranch, to dedicate the ball fields to the county as our park mitigation. However, we also have plans, now trailer parks are back up along this line, and these two properties right now, I mean, there's baseball diamonds on the front, on this frontage across here. And we want our R1 designation to retain, because we like to develop the back of that property behind the baseball diamonds. And we don't see, I guess there was some issue where the Valley Springs PD could serve it. They have a letter that says, they already told us that they could. And I haven't had time to go in and talk to the board recently, but we don't see the value of having one 5-acre. We have the 2-inch water on this property today, so we don't see the value of that being an RA designation. We don't want to see that change. So I'm sure I'm close to my 5 minutes. The other part that it's driving me nuts on all of these. Every time we get in front of a general plan or a community plan, we talk about percentages of voters. You know, let's just quit that nonsense, because we know many of a small group of people attended every community meeting and voted multiple times. You know, what really matters is what the property owners and the people in that community want. It's not what a bunch of people came from the outside in and voted on it.
Hello, my name is Tanya Dowson. I'm from Burson. And I just wanted to comment that the questionnaire that we were given was blatantly slanted. The choices were, is this choice consistent with community values? And then they give us their idea of what our community values are. And to vote against any of the plans that they offered, we had to choose the choice. It is not consistent with the community values. Instead of, you know, do you think this is a good plan for the community? And also, it really is irrelevant what the vote is on these plans, because anybody can vote multiple times, and we're not a democracy. The popular majority can't just vote away the rights of an unpopular minority. You know, the purpose of our Constitution is to protect us from our government and keep them from just prancing all over our property rights. So I just wanted to comment that I think the process of getting the community input and giving that weight is very flawed. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Michael Wietrich. I'm a property owner in District 5 and a resident in District 1. I've been before the board a couple of different times, both representing myself and representing people from Rancho Calaveras who did not want to be part of this plan. And along the way, I've been led to believe that we had a say in this process about what was going to happen, and that we were actually the guiding force behind these decisions that were being made. I personally went on the website to take this survey. I never got through the 40 or so minutes that they tell you it's going to take to do it. I turned the thing off, and the reason I did was a couple of the questions that Mr. Tofanelli has asked this morning. It is not representative of the actual what's there right now. The map is not accurate, and I don't know how you could have people vote on a map that's not accurate. You know, you're asking for people to vote on something that, as she mentioned, is steering it towards the result that you want. And if you remember, about 3 months ago, I came before this board and I read a portion of the Brown Act to you. And the Brown Act specifically states that any form of voting done electronically is illegal. This is exactly why it's illegal, because it can be so easily manipulated that anybody knows the result is going to come out however the people that are in charge of it want it to come out. I attended a meeting, I believe it was the last meeting you had, or the one on the planning for the county, and a comment was made, and I believe it was made by Mr. Thomas, about unintended consequences of an action that you guys, when you changed the zoning for the parcel down to the minimum of 20 acres. The reason I bring that up is the phrase unintended consequences. You know, I've heard that here again this morning already a couple of times. Unintended consequences. And I want all of you to think before you vote today about the unintended consequences that are going to be levied not on just those of us who live here right now, the people whose property rights and their livelihood is being basically thrown in the toilet if this goes through, because some of those people did plan their life based on what their property was going to provide for them, whether it be commercial, residential, or a combination of both of them. People have put their entire lives into coming up here, living this way, and with plans on either developing that property or living on that property and passing it on to their children, because that's the way that they hope that they could live when they grow up. Well, some outside agency has decided to come in here and tell us how our community is supposed to develop. I had a conversation with Mike Robinson, who is a person that was in charge of the grant from Caltrans, and I asked him a question about some of these issues, and based on his response, my comment to him was, this sounds like social engineering, and his response to me was, that is exactly what this is. I would like all of those outside people to take their social engineering and do it someplace else. And if you guys want high density, low income, if all these people think that high density